Welcome to the WP SEO Show, brought to you by SEO Hive, your proactive white label SEO partner. The WP SEO Show is all about talking WordPress and SEO, from optimizations, structures, setups, and plugins. We explore how to make your WordPress website perform better in the search engines. Here are your hosts, Pete Everett and Jeff Patch.
Hello and welcome to the WP SEO Show. Pete hit start recording a little bit before I was ready. I am your co-host, Jeff. I'm here with Pete. We're not going to do as goofy of an intro today. We've already gotten that out of the way. How's it going, Pete?
Hey, I'm all good, thanks, mate. How are you?
We're still having fun with all this awkwardness of recording and all that, but I am good. Actually, I've been a little under the weather this week, so hopefully I don't look or sound too bad. But we're here. We've been chatting a little bit about what we're recording this week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's been an odd week this week. You've been a bit down. We've got like a buggy, coldy thing going through our house. So one of our sons wasn't too great with it. They were still all right to go to school, but they weren't 100%. And my wife's been struggling with it the last couple of days. So it's something that's going around. And it's obviously international.
It's obviously you guys sent it to me through Zoom or something, I guess.
Hey, yours isn't our fault. That's not where I was going with this.
Oh, I thought that's what you meant. You said it's going around internationally. So no, I don't know about you, but it's like anytime I talk about being sick, I instantly feel like I'm like, oh, I've got COVID. Like I don't have COVID, but I feel like I'm sounding like I've got COVID and that's just what everyone's going to think now. For anytime someone's like, oh, I'm not feeling good. Before, like years ago, it was like, they're probably lying, or they just don't want to hang out tonight, or whatever it is, just looking for an excuse. Now it's like, okay, cool. Like that's the instant, like I totally accept that. If somebody says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling good, I'm like, all right, cool, talk to you later. Like I'm done. Like I don't want to see you. I love you. I hope you're doing good. I hope you feel better, but that's cool. We'll see you next time.
COVID is a horrible thing. My eldest son got it when we were it was in the November. So what, COVID started in the March, so it was like 6 or 7 months in. It was before vaccines were a thing. And he got it. It was a kid in his class got it. The whole class isolated, and 3 days later he tested positive for it. And they were doing, because the class was isolating, they were just figuring out how Zoom school worked. So we'd given him a computer. I mean, he was only like 9 at the time, so he didn't have a computer in his room. So we gave him a computer with a little webcam, so he could do that in his bedroom. And he had a desk in there already for doing his homework and that kind of thing. And he just had these like bouts where he just went really weak, like it just like he almost like shut down a bit, like he sort of fainted or passed out. And he would go so weak he couldn't get from his chair at his desk to his bed. Wow. He literally couldn't move. And we'd just hear him like collapse, and he couldn't talk. He just sort of like gazed out of his face. And this happened for about on and off for about 12 or 14 hours. He just kept on having these episodes. So but they'd last about maybe 30 or 40 seconds. And then he'd kind of come around, but he was quite confused and a bit woolly and whatever. And then we could get him to his bed. And then about 20 minutes later, he was back to his normal self. So it happened the first time and he seemed to get better. The second time it happened, we rang the ambulance, but they didn't want to come because we had active COVID in the house. And by the time we were like off, or by the time we were sort of on the phone with them, he'd then come round again. So they'd said, right, well, we're going to stand the crew down, ring us back if it happens again. And that happened 2 more times. And they never came because he'd always sort of come round. And then we got to a night time and he did go to sleep. We didn't sleep a lot that night, just checking on him. And the following day, thankfully, I mean, he still wasn't very well, but that didn't happen again. And then he sort of started to pick up day on day from there. So COVID was a vile thing.
Oh, man, that's terrifying. I remember when he got it, but you did not share that much info with me at the time. I just thought he was up there with the sniffles. He's like, yeah, he's doing a couple days, he'll be all right. That's the extent of I knew how bad things got in your house. So thanks.
But bless him, he did get it. He had it 4 times over over a period of like 8 months to a year, I guess. He had it 4 times. He had it more than anybody else in the house. And
That's
you know,
more than my whole family combined.
right. Okay. So, as a family, like Gabs and I, we just decided, you know what? He's our son. He's 9. Likewise, the younger one, he would have been 6 at the time. You know, they're our children. We're not going to treat them any differently. We're not going to stop touching them. We're not going to shut them in their room.
Yeah.
You know what? If we get it, so be it. We're going to be with him. And that was, yeah. So that was the decision we made. That particular instance when Isaac got it, that was the first time he had it, and you could tell he was getting sort of, when we first tested him, you could tell he wasn't very well, but it was just like a cold, you know, just nothing to sort of write home about. The thing they sort of didn't tell you was that you were going to have like a really bad, like 48-hour window. And right in the middle of that was this like 12 or 14-hour window where he had these collapsing episodes. And then, as I say, then he started to get a little bit better. He still wasn't great, but he was a little bit better. Then kind of the day after that, he was kind of back to just having a coldy, flu-y thing like everybody else. So it was just this window that was really, really sort of manky.
Man.
But
Ay,
anyway,
ay, ay.
welcome to the COVID podcast.
Welcome to the WP COVID show. No, we got lucky. We managed to dodge it pretty well. I think that if not all of us, I had it in January before the pandemic started, because I remember I really offended my partner by telling her the food didn't taste like anything for a couple days. It's like before we, you know, it was even being talked about. But I remember there was like 3 or 4 days where everything that I ate, I just was like, it doesn't taste like anything. Like I wouldn't say I didn't have any sense of taste or smell, but food just was so bland and everything. So I don't know. I kind of unscientifically think I had it then, but ever since then we've been super lucky. We dodged it. I mean, we're kind of hermits anyway, so that makes it easier. But
we were just talking about that earlier, and like, yeah, we were talking about things being filmed in your city, and I'm like, well, I don't know, I don't leave the garden. I mean, you don't even leave the house.
not enough.
So.
Not enough. But anyway, all right, we'll stop reminiscing about the years of COVID that we've all been enjoying, because I'm sure everybody listening also went through the same thing, if not worse. So thankfully you're here and listening. Hope you're all well and everything. So
absolutely.
Today, Peter, I'm pretending I'm your mother. That was the best British accent I'll try to do.
Hi, Mom.
Today, I think we wanted to talk about technical SEO, and not necessarily getting into the nuts and bolts of it, but how important it is, because it's really kind of first things first, right? When you're launching a new site or you're taking over a site, when you're preparing a website to start ranking for search on the search engines, first things first, you got to get that technical health set up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not very fun. It's not a sexy part of SEO, doing on-site optimizations to an existing website. Code isn't an interesting read. I think that's the honest truth of it.
I think a newer site would probably be a little less daunting. Probably.
But yeah, and you know, it can be quite good fun. I don't want to be too down on it. But the reality is that you need to look. The on-site technical SEO score of a website taints everything else you do with it. That's the honest truth. So if you don't understand that, if you don't know what that is, and you haven't done the best to remedy particularly the errors, and I know we'll get onto errors and warnings and stuff in a minute, but if you haven't done your best to remedy that as best you can, then it doesn't matter what else you do with this website. You can write the best copy that the world has ever seen, and if Google reads that and sees it and then says, yeah, but it's on a site with a health of 62%, it's never going to be any better than a site that's got a health of 62%. So by making sure you've gone through a process of auditing and rectifying as many of the issues as you can, you are not only providing a very good quick win through to your clients so that you can demonstrate you know what you're talking about and that you're actually going to demonstrate some results to them, but you're almost like unleashing the potential in anything else that you do after it. And you do have to keep on top of site health. It isn't the sort of thing you can just do once and then forget about, but it is the kind of thing you can do once and then review once every 4 to 6 months. It doesn't need to be constantly in your mind, and you can concentrate with getting on with the other cooler stuff like writing good copy and, finding links and doing local SEO or whatever it might be, whatever floats your boat. Yeah, you'd really need to worry about getting that technical piece done first.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it starts out, and that's one of the most important things. When you're growing it and adding to it, that becomes a different conversation. It's usually a lot of work at the beginning, and then maintenance mode, basically maintenance mode. If the site's growing, if it's expanding, if maybe algorithms or software or whatever is changing, there could be some work done. But for the most part, you're doing a bunch of the work up front. You're getting everything in order. And that's why I said it's more daunting when the site's already live, it's already in existence, it's already had who knows what done to it. When it's fresh, that you know, it's easier to start at zero than at negative.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Although I'll try not to get on my soapbox with the next bit I'm about to say. But I run an SEO audit on every website I launch. So I did launched a website the other day. I actually put this out on LinkedIn. I put the speed test out on LinkedIn. So when I launch a website, I run an SEO health check on it, and I run a speed test on it. And if I'm if I'm replacing a site, the site I'd put on LinkedIn was a brand new site for a new company, so that they didn't have anything that it was replacing. But if I'm replacing something, I will also run a speed test on their old site, and I will probably run a health check on their old site, because what's the point in them having a site which has a health of 84% and me launching a new one that's got a site health of 62? That's not going to help them.
Yeah, don't want to go backwards.
And if I'm not hosting the site, I will also run a speed test on our dev server and on the live server, so I can demonstrate if our dev server is faster than their hosting that they've arranged. So I'll do a few of these things, and it maybe sounds like overkill. And somebody did message me to my post on LinkedIn and said, what's the point? Clients don't care. I stopped doing these. Clients don't care. I was just wasting my time. Here's the soapbox bit. I believe wholeheartedly that clients come to us as web professionals. You wouldn't take your car to a mechanic and expect him to send it back to you with some issues. You would expect to buy a new car from a dealership and expect it to have issues. In fact, in the United States, you even have a thing called the lemon law, where if it has too many issues, you can get rid of it and give it back. So why would somebody come to you as a web professional and you think it's acceptable to deliver a website to them where you don't know how well or not it's performing? How good it is out the gate, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. That's the end of the rant.
But real quick, before I forget, I have to say my father just actually lemon lawed his truck.
Oh, really?
And yes, and this is something we've lemon law. That's a thing. I don't know if it's in other countries or not, but I know here in the States, it's something I've grown up with knowing about the lemon law. I've never actually seen it go into effect. I've never known anybody. It's like, oh yeah, I lemon lawed my car. Went into effect on that. My dad had a truck that had so many problems and they couldn't fix it up that he had it for like 4 or 5 years, paid, maybe 3 or 4 years, paid monthly, all that stuff. They gave him back 100% of the money that he paid towards that. They took it back, so he doesn't have the truck anymore. But I mean, he basically had that thing for free. He got every penny he paid back on it. Yeah. And, that was pretty interesting. But it actually, it's kind of a good comparison, because that was exactly what would happen. He would take the truck to the mechanic for a transmission problem, and it would come back with 2 more.
Yeah, exactly.
And they would give him, oh, do this for a little while, and he's like, no, I want you to fix it. I don't want you to give me a checklist of things I want to do, or you want me to do every time I drive. Like,
yeah, this is yeah, you're dead right. This is, it just frustrates me that people think that they can build websites and run an agency and be a developer and this, that, and the other, and have no idea really whether, just because you can use a page builder and get assets to look pretty on a page doesn't mean you can build a website that's going to perform. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to anybody.
No.
But you are, look, and I don't mean it disrespectfully to anybody. That's why services like ours exist, so we can help you with it if you can't do it. But you almost have a duty of care when somebody, that money that a client is paying you isn't just a fee that you deserve, to be paid. That fee is them investing in their company for a better result. So therefore it's our job to do our part to deliver that better result. Now, okay, a thousand other things can go wrong with their business that means that the results don't come. I get that. But you need to be able to sort of cross your heart and hope to die that you have done the best you can for the money that they have given you. And wow, this has got heavy quite quick.
I
But
know.
I and I don't really mean it to. We want to get onto the cool stuff, but there is a duty that we have, and it's something that we just need to take. We all need to take quite seriously. That is, what is a job or a project to each of us. We get used to using websites every day. Is an investment for the company owner in themselves.
Yeah.
So
You said a couple things in there I want to touch on. And it's funny, the whole purpose of this topic or of this chat was supposed to be about technical SEO and putting those steps in place first. But if we segue, the cool thing about recording a podcast is we can change the title afterwards before we launch it. So
we've never done that. I don't know what you're talking about, Jeffrey.
this might be called, looking at what some web professionals do all the time. We'll see. We'll get there. But anyway, you said something that I thought was pretty smart, and that's, as web professionals, our clients are trusting us to make these decisions or to know, right?
Yeah.
And now something I see, I feel like I'm in a little bit of a unique situation, right? Because on one part of the day, I run a white label SEO company with you. The other part of the day, I run a white label website maintenance or WordPress maintenance and support company by myself or with my team over there. And we work with a bunch of different agencies. They all have their own processes. We're there to help. We can help, but sometimes they do a lot of things internally, and we have different kind of relationships with everybody in a sense. Some love to have a website built by a freelancer, and there's nothing wrong with a freelancer. I don't want to put this, create some sort of like artificial fight between freelancers and agency owners, or it's nothing like that.
Yeah,
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? That's not the case at all. Let's just say web professional, right? Whether it's one person or somebody with a team. I've seen plenty of agencies screw this up too, but I see so many like just solo freelancers or who not that go in and they do exactly what you said. They can make a great looking site. They can use the page builder. They can make the 5 or 6 pages, and then they launch it and it looks fantastic. The client reviewed it, it looks wonderful. But what nobody did was look behind the scenes. What nobody did was consider what was on the old website. Were there pages that just got deleted? Were there pages that maybe weren't in their menu? I've seen freelancers go, "Oh, well, I just looked at the website, saw there were, 5 pages in the menu. That's all I did." Like that was the scope.
Yep.
No. If what you should do is, if you realize that it isn't a full job, you need to have that conversation. Like, don't just take the job and say, well, that's what you paid me for. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I should have given you the advice. And I see this all the time. I see sites launched, right, and they have 50 orphaned pages that didn't get designed or built out or something like that, or deleted. Maybe they didn't even get brought over. Sometimes they'll clone the site and not touch it. That doesn't make any sense. Other times they'll start a new site and not import over anything, and that's just poor practice. So I can't tell you how many times. This is just our experience, right? I know you've seen stuff like this. I've seen this a few times. This is just what we see too frequently. I can't imagine people out there that aren't on top of this and looking for it, how many times these things slip through the cracks, and how many clients get sites launched and they're up there for years and years and years, and they finally consult with somebody for SEO and realize we have 9 months worth of work to do that could have been 5 months or 5 minutes worth of work at the get-go 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you have it is a responsibility, and it's something you agree to take on. I have it in my agency. So like you, I do two things. I have SEO Hive that I run with you for half the day, and then I have an agency that's here in the UK. Now we have I have 3 developers on my team, that work with us. Occasionally we work on big projects and they buddy up, or they work on something as a threesome, and that's how they do it. But the vast majority of the time, when we get open quotes regular websites come in, it will only be one person will build that site, and that's, you know, they take the design from the art worker and they build it out, and they are responsible for it from start to finish. So in a sense, they're no different to a freelancer or a single agency owner or whatever, because it's one person responsible for building one website. Um, so this isn't to do with size or scale or anything like that. It's I think there's just, it's to do with acknowledging that responsibility for what you should deliver and what you're really being paid for. And I know both of us have been part of groups that I'm not going to name on this on live on air, but you and I have been part of groups where the whole idea of the fee that you're paid is kind of like your right, and you know, you should always aim to get the five-figure 5-page website, and this, that, and the other. I don't have a problem with people being paid 5 figures for 5 pages of a website, don't get me wrong. But if you're being paid significant money for something that isn't really a technically challenging job, then you've got to make sure it's like the best 5-page website that there is out there on the internet. And that involves the design, the copy, the code base, the SEO, the hierarchy of it, you know, that you need to be ticking all the boxes if you want to charge that kind of high dollar. I don't charge 5 figures for a 5-page website, let me put it that way. But that's I know people that do, and again, I've not got a problem with that. But it's not the problem I have with these coaching groups where I've seen these discussions happen, is that the money has almost been flipped over to be, well, you're the developer, you name your price. It's your right to charge what you're worth, or however they decide to phrase it. Yes, by all means, set your own pricing, but you've got to understand that with that comes the expectation of having the proper delivery. And if you can't deliver it properly, then really focus on that before you worry about whacking your pricing up to 5 figures.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, what's the saying? Crawl before you walk, or
yeah. Don't don't run before you can walk.
don't you? Oh boy! Oh
So,
boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! And
right, so
you know,
so
I feel like we're ranting a bit here, but you know.
well, I was going to bring us around. So where this conversation
It's just a professional
started,
therapy session for the week.
yeah, your bill will be in the post. The just to bring this back around to where we started, was a couple of days ago. You and I were on a call together, and you showed me a website. It was kind of an e-commerce site, wasn't it? It was a website that had a catalog added to it. And they built out some product pages in this catalog, and the pages weren't optimized at all. They didn't have the key thing that we noticed immediately was that they didn't have an H1 tag on the page. And you asked me the question, hey, how important is it that this page doesn't have an H1 tag on it? And I kind of came back with the very SEO-y type answer of, well, it depends. And we then had a discussion about it, and that was kind of what fed into the thought of this show, and talking about how important in certain aspects of technical SEO are to each website.
Yeah.
So
to me, from the outsider's perspective, reviewing what had been done, it looked to me it was that somebody was, okay, not to go back to that euphemism, but somebody was running before they even tied their shoes.
yeah,
It was like building all kinds of I don't even want to say content, because it wasn't really content. They were building a lot of pages, but then like the simple things like the homepage didn't have an H1 tag, and to me that's just one of those givens. Like, it has to happen. It has to be there. It should always be there. And so I was kind of looking for some confirmation, right? Because the way I look at it is that is that H1 tag going to make or break this website? You know, if it's there, is it going to all of a sudden increase its rankings? Is it? Probably not. But the fact that it's not there it's a check mark. It's a red flag. It's an error. And so when we're going back to what we were talking about at first, if all things are equal, the one without the errors is going to win, right? So if they're fighting with a website, if there's another website that they're neck and neck with in the rankings for, and their competitor doesn't have all these errors, they have an H1, something as simple as an H1 tag on their homepage, who's going to win? The one with the H1 tag. And that's the same concept for, I believe, speed tests too. I look the same thing. People get caught up in speed tests. It's important, absolutely. I love making a website nice and fast when possible, but you know what, if it's going to require, stupid example, but rebuilding the slider and let's just say 10 hours of development work to come up with some solution, right? And so it's going to cost this company a few $100, $1,000, whatever. Is it worth it to do that and get it from 97 to 98? Probably not, unless they're going neck and neck with another competitor that's already at 97 or 98 or whatever. So that's kind of the way I always look at it. Go like it's a race. So if it's going to be that
Absolutely.
close, you definitely want to have those things in place, but at the same time, make sure you can run fast. That's important.
Yeah, that's and
Run
that's
well.
that's really all it is. And we said in a previous episode, SEO is two things. One is it's a revenue generating thing for Google. It means it can charge the most for the ads at the top. I won't go back into that again. But the second thing is that SEO is a game of displacement. So in order for you to appear on page one, if you're not there already, you have to be better than the people that are currently on page one, and you'll knock all of them down a position. And eventually the person that's in position 10 will drop onto page 2 into position 11. So SEO is a game of displacement, which is why it's not that easy to say, oh, well, is this H1 tag going to make life better for this website? Because it depends on what the competition is like that are already on page one. If the current page one rankings are all terrible, then guess what? Your site only has to be slightly less terrible to beat them, which is fine. But if the page one SERPs are full of excellent websites, then and you rock up with some mediocre thing, you've brought a knife to a gunfight. You're not going to compete. So it does depend, but what it depends on is who it is that's already ranking there and what their strategy is and what their site is like and their health and their content and their backlink profile and the toxicity of that backlink, and we can go on and on and on. So it's a game of displacement, and that's right. So now if we tie these two things together that we've just been talking about, you have this responsibility as a web developer to deliver the best website that you can because somebody is investing in you as a web professional to help their business. And you've got this list of stuff that should be right on every website, like H1 tags, like chain redirect loops, like minification of certain things. That's a hot topic. But there's a whole host of stuff that should be right. Making sure there's meta titles and meta descriptions and you name it, all that kind of stuff. The vast majority of that stuff you only have to set once. If you put an H1 tag in the theme file or the themer layout or the template that you've built in your page builder or whatever it is to pull in the page title or a custom field or whatever it is, then guess what? All of the pages have H1. It's done. You're finished. That's a green tick. You never have to worry about that ever again, and that is something you've done right for the client. So that's how that's kind of why I went off on the tangent with the responsibility of agency owners, because some of this stuff you just have to do it once and you can forget all about it.
Yeah.
And it can make the difference. And unless you're going to go and do all the research and the gap analysis and all that kind of stuff to figure out whether it's worth it or not, it's just far easier to do it a lot of the time, if I'm being honest.
It definitely is. That's kind of a whole nother rant that we could go on right there. But you mentioned, make sure the H1 is in the theme. WordPress uses, most websites, but WordPress, okay, they use a theme for this specific reason, so that it is cohesive, so that things work right. I love Page Builder. All the page builders out there are great. Even the bad ones are still great for what, you know what I mean? We've been doing this long enough that I remember having to type all the HTML in the body of a post or whatnot. You know what I mean? Like things have come a long way. even the worst page builders are better than how we used to design things 10, 15 years ago or whatever. That said, page builders as a whole have just made it so easy for people to start building WordPress websites. And same thing with the Wix or whatever, that there's nobody cares about the themes anymore. Like, or so many people, I should say, aren't caring about the theme aspects of it. They don't, I've seen websites launched without blog functionality. And it's like, it's built in. You know how hard it is to ruin something that's built in? Like, and it happens all the time.
Hey, when I started building WordPress websites, you had to know the function. You had to actually code it into the theme functions file to create the post type for pages. Pages wasn't in the native left-hand sidebar of WordPress when I started building it. That's how far back it was,
You're dating yourself, because I can't say I remember that, but I remember being really intimidated by custom post types and all that stuff, And once you realize that it's just a post, you know what I mean? Once I understood the concept of that, my whole WordPress, like everything, just blew up. It was just like, oh my goodness, mind blown. I can do anything now. I totally understand it. And as soon as you figure out the structure, there you go. But that's my weird kind of analytical brain. And it's, you were saying, getting all this stuff right. Most of this stuff, it's binary. It's a true or false. Like, you can't really argue most of these technical things. It's either there or it's not. It's either turned on or it's not. The data's there. A website design and stuff, and that's something that I personally struggle with, just I'm not an artsy person. That is something that's debatable, right? So you can but having these things in place, it's just, you run an audit and you'll see they're wrong right off the bat. And actually, on that note, before I forget, I know you have something you want to say. We're going to interrupt this talk with a quick ad from SEO Hive. You would like to accomplish this without getting into nitty gritty, just check out our SEO scout reports or our technical health audit. We would be happy to run these things for you and give you a fantastic, 125 point checklist, Pete, I believe.
125 point checklist. You're dead right.
125 points. And if you don't want to do that, by all means, just subscribe to something, SEMrush or SE Ranking, or just any tool out there. There's so many tools you can audit websites, and they will give you this information. Do it before you launch a website, please.
Absolutely. And that will run the report. And then if you can't action, or you don't want to action, or you've not got the time to action the report, we also have our technical booster product.
Oh, we're still on the ad.
We also have our technical booster product where we will apply these changes to your website for you. Right. Keep getting back to it. So the thing I was going to add to this was that the next thing to understand is that there are different classifications to the issues that you can have with the website. Now, the software that we use classifies them as errors and warnings. Now, you don't have an MOT test. I'm carrying on with the car analogy here. You don't have an MOT test in the States, do you? Like an annual checkup for your car?
I'm guessing that's what we would refer to as a smog test, and I think they're biannually here if your car is past a certain age.
Right, yeah. So here in the UK, if you buy a car, if it's more than 3 years old, it has to have an annual Ministry of Transport test, MOT test. And that is basically a check of your car to make sure it is roadworthy every year, and you can't tax the car to be on the road if you don't have one of these tests. You also can't get insurance. So you're very
sorry to get caught up on this, but by roadworthy, do you mean like safe to drive, like it's not going to fall apart, the tires are there?
So they check that all the tires are above the minimum tread depth. They make sure the brakes work. They make sure the headlights are aligned properly. They make sure the speedometer is accurate. They make sure that the seat belts have the right tension in them so that they're safe. It's a safety test.
We don't do any of that. The only thing that they care about is how much pollution it's making.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, they check emissions as well. It needs to be,
which is admittedly important. Absolutely important. But
yeah. So
they don't care if it's going to kill you on the road.
Well, we go into all of these things. So it's an MOT test, and basically the MOT comes back that the form has that you get back that you have to keep in the history of your car has 2 sections on it. One is failures, and the next is advisories. So failures are things that it has failed on. And normally, if it's failed on something, the mechanic will ring you during the day saying it's failed on these 3 things. I'm going to fix them. The cost is this, and then we'll retest it. So when you get the car back at the end of each day, it's always passed. But unless it's got real major problems. The advisories, they're the things that they predict will be failures on the next test. So if you don't rectify these within the next 12 months, then you know that it's going to fail on them next time. So why am I talking about this? The SEO reports that we run are a bit like these MOT tests. So we have errors, and they are like the failures. You need to make sure your websites are always running error-free. Now, that can be anything from broken links for execs pages, broken code, missing tags,
H1 tags,
missing H1 tags. That is a failure. All that kind of stuff. That's all an error and needs to be fixed. The website shouldn't go live, or you shouldn't start even trying to optimize something else on it while this stuff is happening. We then have warnings, and they're like the advisories. So now, okay, it's not going to come around in 12 months and these warnings will become failures. But instead, ideally what we want to do with the warnings is keep them as low as possible. However, if for certain reasons there are certain things that we can't address, then we can live with a few of them. A standard one that we get here is low text to HTML ratio. You know what? Somebody's contact page is never going to have a lot of text on it. Therefore, it will always have a low text to HTML ratio. And guess what? I'm not going to send a copywriter in to try and fix that warning. It is just not. We'll just live with that one. That's absolutely fine.
Not important.
Yeah, not important. So, like I say, there's some of them aren't as, you can live with them, but it's really important that you understand what is an error or a warning or whatever it is that the software that you're using calls them. But yeah, that's how I like to explain it to British clients. Is it's a bit like an MOT test for your website.
It makes sense. Yeah, I'm feeling I'm feeling very kind of like invigorated, but also like stressed out by this. A little sweaty. My palms are a little sweaty. Like just kind of getting all heated about watching people do things wrong. But then it made me realize that, because we said something earlier, and it was like, as a professional, you owe your clients, you're expected to do this. And I'm kind of picking on freelancers or solopreneurs a little bit with that, and I don't mean to do that at all. I don't expect a freelancer or somebody who's brought in to say build a website like that to do all this. But I do expect them to kind of go, hey, is anybody doing this? Is it, if they see something, they should understand this. They, or something like that. And so, maybe if you're the person above them, you're the agency owner or something, this is stuff you need to keep an eye on. This stuff you need to make sure is happening. Because if you do, I know a lot of our clients, they have multiple contractors. We have contractors we work with all the time, and they might have their own way of doing things, and they might think they're doing everything correctly, because they're used to working with people that do have, say, an SEO team or I don't know, you know what I mean? Insert job title here. Every freelancer and everything is going to have a much different way of doing things and a much different experience, or, they're going to have different experiences working with different folks. So there's no real like right, wrong, or way to do things. And there's a million different ways to do things in WordPress. Like, that's one of the great things about WordPress is you can do anything. One of the worst things about WordPress is you can do anything, and you can do it differently in every which way. So
well, I think my final thing to say on this is that sometimes the final thing to be aware of with this stuff is that you also need to have the best intention of the client sort of in your mind as you're fixing them. So some of these things are technical. Yeah. And you're like, you're right. Black or white. Is there an H1 tag there? Yes or no? Now, from the technical point of view, putting an H1 tag on a template so that there's only one on each page will pass the test, and you'll increase the site health. However, the test isn't looking for what you're putting in the H1 tag on each page, which can also have it can also have a consequence as to what the page is going to rank for and where it's going to appear in the search engines. So the real important thing here is that sometimes, you know, don't try, you need to try and fix this stuff. You need to try and make sure that it is done properly, but you're doing it so that you're building a better platform for the client. So some of this stuff you need to be aware of what it is you're fixing it with rather than just fixing it. Now, if you're working with the client on an ongoing basis, then you might want to, you know, it may be that, you know what, you just want to get this stuff fixed as fast as you can, show them the report, because you're going to review all of the content that's on the page in a future iteration of your process. That's absolutely fine. But if you're just doing this as a one-off, well, then you kind of need to take it on yourself and say, right, okay, so I need to fix this. I've got 5 pages here with missing H1s. Okay, I can put the H1 tag in, but let's just, for the sake of another 30 seconds work on each page, what should I actually put in these H1 tags? And just to go and do a quick Google and say, right, so it's a page about this. Google that, see what the H1 tags are like. You know, go and ask an AI, go and ask ChatGPT to collate the. Oh well, don't ask ChatGPT because it doesn't have an up-to-date database. Go and ask Bard for a for to collate the title tags for the top 10 results about this, and it'll give you the list. So you don't have to put a lot of effort in, but actually sometimes it's better to fix it properly rather than just fix it for the report, if you see what I mean.
I mean, if you're going to go through the trouble, you may as well do it right. Like, you know, like if you're not going to do it right, why do it at all? Sometimes you would argue. But I was going to joke earlier. That's a good tip and good way to look at it. But I was going to joke earlier. It's kind of say, you know, if the H1 tag was missing, for example, that's the one we're just using. Sorry to beat that one to death, but it almost would be better to literally just put an H1 tag and just put like blah 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 in there, like, because that would fix the error. Obviously that's terrible. I know, I'm not recommending you do that, but in a sense, it would be better to have that and have irrelevant content than it would to just be to have none, I think. So
yeah,
I know that's a humorous way to look at it, but
that is a humorous way to look at it. Yeah, but please don't do that. We are not condoning that from SEO Hive
blah,
that
blah,
we will
blah.
go and put blah 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 on your website.
No, but okay, I am obviously being silly here, but at the same time, if let's say you're building out a page or a site, kind of just ad hoc, you know what I mean? You don't really have a design or a plan. You're just doing it based off whatever the client's given you or something. If you don't, if you can't figure out what that H1 should be, for example, like Pete was saying, you know, go ask AI or whatnot. If for some reason you can't figure it out, you put that H1 there and you put title should go here.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean, because at the same time, as a, you know, like I build a lot of sites, and that's what I've done. That's my big history, less the writing. So, you know, most of those situations, you're not, you know, you're not being paid. I don't want to say you're not being paid to, but you know, I mean, that's not part of what you're scoped to do. You're not writing. Maybe that's not your expertise. So, at the very least, you could use a placeholder or something that says we need something to put here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very good tip. And to give Kyle Van Duzen his weekly shout out on the show, he did set up website Ipsum. So if you do need lorem ipsum type website text to go in these things, go and visit websiteipsum.com, I think it is. Yeah,
We'll put it in the
can
show notes if either way.
Absolutely, and you can just go and copy and paste these things out. You know, don't stress. This is a heading; it will be replaced or whatever it says. So yeah, that is a very good tip when you're building. And also, you know, this is another good shout out for having some kind of starter setup for however you build sites. If you have a starter theme or a starter install or whatever it might be that you are cloning to start your sites, well, you know what, have some of the base templates. You know you're going to need a single .php file. You know you're going to need an index.php file. You know you're going to need a page.php file. You know you're going to need a header. You know you're going to need a footer. Just go and get those things set up so that they're right. Because again, if you've got that in your starter theme, then you don't even need to think about it before you don't need to think about it, if you see what I mean.
You want to know, totally unrelated to this topic, but you want to know something I have in our starter site that I always pat myself on the back for every time we need it?
Go on.
Transactional email already set up.
Oh, yes. Oh
I've got it
yes.
connected to SendGrid. It uses our company domain, so it's ready to go. So basically, anytime during the development process, we could have those emails, and they just come from, like our staging domain. We've already got it approved and whatnot. And then we just, of course, have to convert it to the client when we launch it, but at least it's there from the get-go. We will never forget about it. The worst case scenario, their website will send emails from our domain.
Yeah.
Like,
Not their website won't send email.
right. No, it'll still send them perfectly. So let's say they get they have a contact form. That's the only sort of thing that they're ever getting. They'll just get them sent from our domain rather than their own domain. So like, I mean, that's the worst case scenario, which is a really good place to be.
Because you know what? We've all done it. We've all sent a website live, and then 3 weeks later, the client's rung us back saying, I forgot my password. I've hit password reset and I'm not getting an email.
Emails never work. That's a whole nother topic, because that's literally every fourth post in every website development group.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is. But yeah. So look, this has been another kind of roundabout the houses, but I think we've kind of covered why worrying about your technical SEO is important, particularly if you then worry about your technical SEO errors first.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope so. And one thing I'm proud to say that even before getting into SEO Hive with you, that was something that we always took pretty seriously. Like launching with, I don't know if bare minimum is the right term to use or not, but you know what I mean? Launching with just with the basics there, they got to be there. And at least the path is set for the website to continue to grow and evolve. And, does that stuff make an instant difference right off the bat? Probably not, because you've also got to have the content and everything has to mesh together. But when those things do all come together, you don't want to have forgotten about a big piece. And probably one of the biggest things that I noticed when we started doing this years ago was when we would go in and clean up a site, we would I'm kind of scared to quote these numbers, so please understand that these are no sort of guarantees or anything like that, but we would very frequently see a website's traffic double the next month after fixing a lot of this stuff.
Oh
And now
yeah.
that's relative, maybe they only had a few hundred anyway, but but then we had some massive sites that had little problems like these that had literally tens of thousands of URLs, and we'd fix things on the theme level, which of course meant they applied to all 25,000 URLs on the website. And we would just see their traffic just go through the roof. That didn't go up 100%, but there was already it was already in the tens of thousands that it went up like 30 or 40%. And it just went like, wow, look at what just a couple hours of work can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's relative and it scales, but it scales. So it's very important. The bigger the project, the bigger the website, the bigger the company. It's very, 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 very important.
We have we regularly see notable increases in search position and therefore in traffic simply by improving the site health. Now it might not be brilliant traffic because just if the website content wasn't great to begin with, and it's not structured properly, and you're just kind of ranking for these incidental terms, then guess what, you're just going to get more incidental term traffic. But you can see a measurable increase just by getting this stuff right. And it is one of the reasons why running an SEO health check is a gated product that I use in my agency when I'm selling SEO. I don't sell SEO retainers to people I've never worked with before. I will sell an SEO health check, which is this process, as a one-off project. And then I'll sell another process as another one-off project. So at least by the time I start working on a monthly basis with somebody, I know that I like the client, they like me. I can genuinely know that I'm going to make a difference to them before I start taking money off them. And that's just the way I decided to structure it out. But that's exactly the reason why this is one of the gated products, so that what, if this doesn't work, if this all falls apart and we fall out, or I don't want to work with you anymore, or you don't want to work with me anymore, then look, I've given a positive benefit to your business because you're going to leave me with a cleaner website than when you arrived.
Yeah.
And if that's as far as it goes, I've been paid for that. You've got something out of it. Deal's done.
Well, I mean, that's, with any type of audit, and it's setting those expectations and getting a mutual idea of what to expect is very, very, very valuable. You don't want to get sucked into something, and you don't want to sell a client on a $99 a month plan and find out they really need, this much work and 10 times the amount of work, and then now am I committed to it, or do I have to upsell you? Either way, bad place to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing that can happen is, and I used to do this. This is why I separated it out. I used to sell an SEO retainer, and then in month one, add in a health check. And what that meant was I had so much work to do in month one because I didn't understand the health of the website before I signed the website, that I'd often not hit month one's goals. So then my very first monthly call with a client, I was then explaining to people why I hadn't done what they'd only signed up for me to do 4 weeks ago. All because I'd given myself too much to do. So again, just take a chunk of it out of the process. Get this stuff done before there is a month one, before that kind of clock is ticking. And then when you enter month one, yes, okay, you might still have to do a bit of keyword research and finalize a plan here or there, but you've actually got an achievable amount of work that sits far more succinctly with what you're going to be delivering monthly. The other thing that would happen is I would get all this work done in month one, and that would set the expectation to the client that that's how much work they were going to get every month. So then, month two, they'd be a little sort of standoffish because, oh, well, at least you've now delivered what you said you were going to deliver. And then month three, they'd think, oh, hell, that really is all you're going to deliver. But you did all this in month one. Why aren't you doing that now? So, it's just, there's a psychology to this stuff, which, I really want people to pick up from our mistakes so that they don't have to make the same ones again.
I was going to say, we might know a thing or two about this topic.
So,
in fact, that example I was using a minute ago is the one that always sticks in my head because I've never been more proud of anything we've accomplished, and they canceled.
Yeah, this happens. But look, But look, in all seriousness, if you do need help with this stuff, this episode was never intended to scaremonger anybody. But if you do feel a bit overwhelmed or you're not sure where to start, we do have audits. They start from $47. They're not expensive. We do have the ability to help you on a white label basis. If we can help you, we're here to help you. We're not going to try and sell to you. We're not going to try and force anything on you. But if you need some help, please reach out, hello@seohive.co, or hit me and Jeff up on social media somewhere. And, we're more than happy to talk to you about it.
Should we share the big secret about our audit products? The real big secret?
Go on then. It's so much of a secret. I don't know what you're going to say next.
They're actually sort of free in a sense, because all of our audits, we actually will give you a coupon. Assuming the site wants to sign up afterwards, you will get all that money back. So you'll take it off when you sign up. So if you have a hot lead, all of our audit products are kind of no-brainers for you.
Absolutely. And if you're not sure whether they're going to sign up and you can bake it into a project price, then you can do it at the end of a project. You can also cover it that way. So honestly, I know we've done a lot of preachy stuff. I've done a lot of preachy stuff on this show. Jeff's been leveling me on it. But seriously, don't get stuck with it. We are a white label provider to help our clients build recurring revenue and ultimately have lasting relationships with their clients, with your clients. So, if we can help you do that through delivering better technical SEO, just reach out. We're more than happy to chat.
We're here and we can't wait to talk to you. And with that, I think we are winding this episode down.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, it's been fun again. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
I have very much so.
Great. Well, in which case,
I love, in all seriousness, I mean, I know we rant a bit, but we've had a lot of experience with this stuff, and so some of it is just fun to kind of talk and get off your chest, and the other is kind of, it's just useful, it's helpful, and if our experiences help just by sharing them and venting and laughing a little bit, then I hope it helps somebody. I hope people take something away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, with that, if we don't see you in our inbox, we'll see you in the next show.
The WP SEO Show is brought to you by SEO Hive, your agency's proactive white label SEO partner. We understand that finding a reliable SEO supplier is key to ensuring you build stable monthly recurring revenue into your digital agency. At SEO Hive, we have a suite of products that will help you sell, scale and deliver your monthly SEO retainers, from our scout reports and one-off technical boosters, to our flagship local SEO and honeypot plans, all of which have clear pricing and monthly deliverables. If you want to explore how SEO Hive can help your agency deliver high-quality and reliable SEO agreements for your clients, you can find more information at seohive.co and schedule a call to discuss the next steps.